I've made various videos analyzing chess in media. And today we're gonna talk about maybe the most requested one yet, Cowboy Bebop, which is a detective space western. It's a bit like I see the space aliens have not yet admitted to crimes. Hacha, 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 hacha. Oh my goodness, is that? Howdy, partner. Yes, it is I. Yeehaw, Cowboy Panda. I'm American and I like cheeseburgers. I hope you guys like that. So yeah, that's roughly what Cowboy Bebop is. So the first time chess is brought up is in season 1, episode 14. I'm sorry, that intro, I'm still just thinking about it. Am I going crazy? You guys will tell me if I'm going crazy, right? Alright, anyway, season 1, episode 14, called Bohemian Rhapsody. Cowboy Bebop is a show about a group of bounty hunters in the future. At the start of the episode, we can tell they are like hunting people down. We see them in the streets. They're doing a good job. So they caught all the underlings, but then as it turns out...
Looks like they were caught in the act, but none of them was the mastermind.
Oh, and you don't get the reward unless you find the mastermind, right? Sorry, you guys.
Yeah, so I like the kicking down the television. So yeah, they still need to find the mastermind. As it turns out, the mastermind is this really awesome chess player, supposedly. So at the various people they arrested, they found these chess pieces.
There it is. This is a memory cartridge for playing e-chess. The memory chip stores data within the piece.
This is just peak old technology, but that would have been really new at the time that the show came out. For example, when the Nintendo Wii came out, you could store your Miis, your avatars, inside of a Wii remote. Or Amiibos, which was this huge thing. To be fair to the show, it could genuinely be that due to space travel and all that shenanigans, cloud computing is just not that practical. And that's like only on Earth, and for going to space, they go back to this type of tech. But I do find it interesting. Also, we see the first game notation, and the first game we see is E4, E5, and pawn F4. This is called the King's Gambit. It's a little bit similar to the Queen's Gambit, where you play C4. Only the Queen's Gambit isn't a true gambit, we very often say, because accepting this pawn really can't be defended. And there are some variations where the pawn is defended. However, you shouldn't really do this, because over here, you're just bound to sort of lose material. And if nothing else, you could immediately, theoretically, win the pawn back. The King's Gambit, on the other hand, certainly is, because after takes, we don't have a way to immediately win the pawn back. And in fact, if we follow the main line, the idea is genuinely to hold on to the pawn and then survive White's upcoming initiative.
It connects to the net. See?
Ooh. The holograms are really cool though. It's funny to me, people thought that holograms were gonna be like the future. But as it turns out, it's actually really hard to get a high resolution image. Actually manipulating light like this is just really way too difficult. It's just one of those technologies that looks cool, but is very impractical. And you can get the same thing by just having a VR headset. Okay, we see the board again. You can already notice some strange things happening. Okay, so this knight is currently in the progress of moving. That's why it looks so strange. The black queen isn't there. The same with white's king. So the board looks a little bit like this, where then knight to c3 is played. This is just not a legal position. It actually gets worse, because even if we just assume that like animation error, queen stood on d8, king stood on e1. In the main line after takes, usually here we push, and then we play something like pawn d3 would be the main line, knight c3 is also playable, right? However, as you can tell over here, this pawn is still on the e5 square, meaning that black actually hasn't moved. I don't know what happened here, but white just took 2 moves in a row. Okay, you should see, like the knight comes in. It just doesn't make much sense. Now, I've seen a lot of people comment things like, it's clear that not one chess player was involved in the production of these series, right? I think what is actually happening in most of these, you have various different teams. You have writers, you have producers coordinating the animation team, and then you have these teams of animators. And I think what's actually going wrong is just the translation between these different teams having to work together. At the very least, I can understand with these big productions and that would happen. Oh, so here we see the masterminds play. White's king back, but black still doesn't have the queen. Is he giving ults? Is this an ults game? Is he giving up his queen, or is it just an animation error? I have no idea. Ooh, they're playing chess. And we just saw a bishop for a knight exchange. I looked at the board. So recreating the board position, I think this is roughly going on. So you can tell black's king is castled. They have developed their knight. And this exchange bishop for knight just happened. There's also seemingly a bishop here on d2. What's confusing about this though is that the pawn, so if I go to the other shot, the black pawn was on e5. Now the black pawn is on e6. Now pawns can go backwards. So that's just really strange to me. And the last move was this bishop for knight exchange. So yeah, with the pawn here on e6, we're no longer in the king's gambit. And yeah, as you can see, the pawn is not on e5, but actually on e6.
Oh, good. There's nothing in here but chess data.
Ooh, okay, so we're seeing an actual game notation. I love it when the show genuinely shows this because it makes it really fun to set it up. And you know what? If you are a bit of a chess geek and you're watching this back in the day, you would 100% pause the video and go through the match. So, you know what? Let's do that. Let's see how the game developed. This is a Scandinavian defense. It's actually really weird. So if you consult the top computers, sometimes even prefer the move pawn a6 over the Scandinavian, which is wild to me, by the way. The main downside of it, though, is that after the exchange, we're essentially getting black to pull the queen out. Now, we often tell beginners don't bring the queen out early. And, you know, for absolute beginners, it's great advice. The actual rule, though, is a little bit more complicated. Because let's say I play the move c5, pawn to c3. Here, one of the main moves is pawn to d5, where after the exchange, we bring out the queen early. But why is this okay? Pieces do like occupying central squares. However, in this case, white can develop with gain of time. Now compare that to the Alapin Sicilian. Do you see what the difference is? Because it can't get kicked, the queen stands well. Scandinavian, it's one of these openings where white gets like a slight advantage here. Black plays a move that's not much played at all. As you can see in the Masters database, only 1% of games. Pawn to e5. This queen is again just going to get hit with gain of time. So here after bishop to b4, we can play knight f3. In this case, it's even a pawn sacrifice, but it doesn't matter. Because quite literally, it is only white who can be better. You have a massive lead in development, you're one move away from castling, and you have all these open lines to work with. And here bishop f4. Black castle shores, and here white cashes in. So white is feeling a bit uncomfortable playing down a pawn, and then bends a couple of tempi to win the material back. If here you play h6, the knight can reroute itself to e4. This exchange is bad because after the queen takes back, we're hitting both the bishop and this checkmate square with not a great way to defend both, except for pawn to f5, which also creates problems because here rook takes b7. And it's not about winning a pawn, it's about the fact that we're just completely getting into our opponent's position. But okay, we see rook f to d8, aiming to win this pawn. And here we see a move that's honestly inexplicable. Bishop to c8. Bishop back. Why are we undeveloping a piece? What is going on here? So it makes some sense, right? Because here the move pawn to b6 isn't playable. What is wrong with the move pawn to b6? Here you actually have a tactical resource. Knight h7. And you immediately figure out, oh, this knight is overloaded. It is currently doing two jobs. It's guarding the bishop and it's guarding the square. So if we take, I take the bishop. You also don't really have a very useful in-between move because anything I try, this comes with check. Bishop c8 is so ugly, especially compared to the very easy just pawn h6. Pawn h6 is like such a simple solution to all your problems that I don't understand why we go with bishop c8. But if bishop c8 wasn't weird enough, here it actually gets worse because in this position we see the following move being played, and that is rook f to e7. Rook f to e7. Yeah. No. No. Then we see the move pawn a5. And now it gets even better. Queen e7. Queen to e7. Yeah, what a move. Oh, what does that mean? Probably that here instead rook f e1, pawn a5 and queen e7. But I mean, that is very clearly a 7. That is not a 1. So here we take. The knight jumps in to the c3 square, rook e1. Here black grabs a pawn, which, I mean, come on, like with this position going on over here, there is clearly much more to worry about than the freaking pawn counts. So what are we doing? Okay, rook f4, which is a pretty nice move. Essentially, we are just trying to give a check on the h4 square. So like if I do nothing, this just leads to a very swift checkmate, like so. And mate. But it is always nice, right? Like these subtle little backwards moves, like they're always cool. You do need to activate the rook somehow. Also, we're preparing to potentially put the rook on... Also, we're potentially preparing to put the rook on h6. And then after bishop d3, black just resigns. This is a very normal reaction to finding a good chess move, by the way. What do I play here? Ooh! What a fun move. By the way, bonus points if you can figure out who played this game. Leave a comment down below, okay?
Edward is very busy. Give me that stone.
So Ed is clearly very engaged with the chess match, but we do see the board for a second. It looks a little bit weird. Mainly, this is a rook. We can all agree on that, right? This is probably not a rook. It looks more like a pawn. I'm thinking that because this is what a bishop looks like. Also, I think white has 2 queens. It's very clear who's winning here. The computer cannot analyze this position because there's a pawn on e1. There's no good alternative to taking the knight, after which taking here and mate cannot be stopped.
Chess master. Edward is playing chess against him right now.
Huh?
So yeah, that's how I find Hex. Because he's playing an online match. My face when I just sack my queen. I don't know.
Looks like there's air in here.
I think it's great that they're doing like the upside down camera angles because yeah, it's in space. It makes total sense. It was always strange to me that in movies like Star Wars and, you know, honestly whatever, Star Trek too. By the way, Star Trek might make a video on that one. Ships would very often be at the exact same angle. Is this an AI image? It isn't, right? Let's hope not. That actually raises the question to me. Do you think it's rude on the International Space Station to be at a different angle than the person you're talking to? How do astronauts deal with that? Anyway, you're not here for these insane remedies. And here we see the board again. To be honest, probably not a faithful recreation because sort of this entire area is covered by the hand. As you can see over here, like, yeah, there could be like a piece here or like here, right? Like, I just don't know. Can probably recreate this. And here we are. So as you might notice, same pawn structure. And indeed, there probably were some pieces covered by the hand. White played f takes g3, which of course makes sense. This bishop is hanging. A more sensible move is of course taking with your h-pawn because that opens the rook, but whatever.
Wow!
I mean, I would make fun of this if it wasn't genuinely how I react to some chess games.
Chessmaster Hex, I take it.
Unfortunately, Hexmaster Unfortunately, Chessmaster Hex got scolded. Wow, I cannot talk. I'm gonna end the video really soon, guys. Chessmaster Hex got called. But as it turns out, he had grown senile. And Hex won. And once more, we get a very relatable reaction. And the moral of the story, if you're a terrorist being hunted by the government, don't log into your chess.com account, even when you want to maintain your streak. So that would be all for me today. By the way, we hit 10,000 subscribers. Hi, people. That's a lot of people watching me. Make sure you get plenty of sleep and eat healthy foods. That will be all for me today. YouTube thinks you like this video. I worked very hard on it, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.